Life in America was predictable, not in a bad way, but in that steady, monotonous rhythm that makes you forget to stop and ask yourself if you're actually happy. I had a nice house, a decent job, and my daughter Emily lived just a few miles away with her husband Jake. They were the picture-perfect couple, young, in love, and always busy with their lives. I was proud of her, really. But sometimes, when I'd come home to an empty house, I'd feel this weird emptiness, like something was missing. Jake and I had always gotten along well. He was easy to talk to, funny, and always made an effort to include me in their plans. He'd call me mom sometimes, even though I wasn't his mom, and it felt nice, like I was still needed, you know. We'd chat about work, sports, or whatever was on TV. It was innocent. At least, that's what I told myself. Emily was busy with her job, always traveling for work. She'd call me from the airport, telling me about her latest project, and I'd listen, half distracted, as I scrolled through my phone or tidied up the house. Jake would often come over when she was away just to check on me, he said. We'd have dinner, watch a movie, and he'd leave before it got too late. It was normal. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. But then one night, something shifted. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. We were sitting on the couch, laughing at some stupid comedy, and he turned to me with this look in his eyes. It wasn't the usual friendly, casual look. It was different. I felt my stomach drop, but I didn't say anything. I just laughed it off and pretended I hadn't noticed. That night after he left, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying that moment in my head, wondering if I'd imagined it. But deep down, I knew I hadn't. And that's when the thoughts started creeping in. What if? What if I let myself explore this? What if I stopped pretending I didn't feel something too? Ooh. I shook my head, trying to push the thoughts away. This was Jake, my son-in-law, Emily's husband. This was wrong. But the more I tried to ignore it, the louder the thoughts became. And that's when I realized I was in trouble. After that night on the couch, things felt different. Not in a way anyone else would notice, but I noticed. Jake still came over when Emily was away, still called me a mom, still joked around like nothing had changed. But now there was this tension. This unspoken thing is hanging in the air between us, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. One evening, Emily called to say she'd be gone for the weekend, some work conference in Chicago. Jake showed up at my place with a bottle of wine like he always did, and we sat at the kitchen table, talking about nothing in particular. But this time, the conversation felt heavier. He kept looking at me, really looking at me, and I could feel my heart racing. I told myself it was nothing, that I was reading too much into it. But then he said something that stopped me cold. You know, you're not like other moms, he said, swirling his wine glass. You're different. You're different. I laughed, trying to brush it off. A different how? He shrugged, but his eyes stayed locked on mine. I don't know. You're just fun to be around. Emily's lucky to have you. The way he said it made my stomach flip. I didn't know how to respond, so I just took another sip of wine and changed the subject. But the rest of the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. Something I wasn't sure I was ready for. Later, as we were cleaning up, he stood close to me, too close. I could feel the heat of his body and smell his cologne. My hands trembled as I put the dishes away, and I could tell he noticed. He didn't say anything, but he didn't move away either. We just stood there, frozen in this moment, neither of us willing to break it. Finally, he cleared his throat and took a step back. I should probably head out, he said, his voice a little shaky. Early day tomorrow. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the door, but before he left, he turned to me and said, "Good night, Mom." The way he said it this time, it didn't feel like he was calling me a mom. It felt like something else entirely, and as I watched him walk out the door, I realized I was in way over my head. I was in way over my head. Emily had been gone for 2 days, and Jake had come over every night. It was starting to feel like a routine dinner, wine, conversation, but tonight felt different. The air was charged like a storm was brewing, and neither of us could ignore it. We were sitting on the couch again, just like that first night. The TV was on, but neither of us was really watching. He was closer to me than usual, his arm resting on the back of the couch behind me. I could feel the warmth of his body, and it made my skin tingle. I told myself to move, to put some distance between us, but I didn't. I couldn't. He leaned in a little closer, and I could feel his breath on my neck. My mind was screaming at me to stop this, to get up and walk away, but my body wasn't listening. Jake, I started, but I didn't know what to say. My voice came out shaky, barely above a whisper. He didn't say anything. He just looked at me, his eyes dark and intense, and then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle or hesitant. It was hungry, desperate, like he'd been waiting for this moment as long as I had. And for a second, I froze. But then something inside me snapped, and I kissed him back. It was wrong. I knew it was wrong. But in that moment, I didn't care. All I could think about was how alive I felt, how wanted. We stumbled to my bedroom, our hands fumbling with buttons and zippers, and I didn't stop to think about Emily or the consequences. I just let myself feel. Afterward, we lay there in silence, the weight of what we'd done hanging heavy in the air. Jake didn't say anything, and neither did I. What was there to say? We both knew we'd crossed a line we could never come back from. He left before dawn, slipping out quietly so the neighbors wouldn't see. I stayed in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. I should have felt guilty. I should have been crying, screaming, something. But all I felt was this strange, hollow emptiness, like I'd just lost something I didn't even know I had. After that night, everything changed. Jake and I didn't talk about what happened, not directly anyway. But it was there, in every glance, every touch, every word left unsaid. We started meeting more often, always when Emily was away, always in secret. It was thrilling and terrifying all at once. I told myself it was just physical, that it didn't mean anything. But the truth was, it did. I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years. Jake made me feel desired, wanted, like I was more than just a mom or a wife, and I hated myself for it. We got better at hiding it. We'd meet at my place, or sometimes at a hotel if we were feeling bold. We'd text each other in code, deleting the messages as soon as we sent them. It was exhausting, but it was also addictive. The risk, the secrecy, it made everything feel more intense. But then, one day, Emily called me out of the blue. "Mom, have you noticed anything off about Jake lately?" she asked. My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I don't know," she said. "He's just been acting weird, distant, I guess, and he's been working late a lot. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it." I felt a pang of guilt so sharp it took my breath away. "I'm sure it's nothing," I said, forcing a laugh. "You know how men are. Probably just stressed about work." She sighed. "Yeah, you're probably right. I don't know. I feel like something's off." I wanted to tell her the truth. I wanted to come clean and beg for her forgiveness. But I didn't. Instead, I lied. "Don't worry, sweetie. Everything's fine." After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, staring at my phone. I felt sick to my stomach. Emily trusted me, and I was betraying her in the worst possible way. But even as the guilt ate away at me, I couldn't stop. I didn't want to. That night, Jake came over again. When he kissed me, I kissed him back, but it felt different. There was this undercurrent of fear, of dread, that hadn't been there before. I kept thinking about Emily, about the hurt in her voice when she'd asked me if something was wrong. "We need to be more careful," I said when we finally pulled apart. "Emily's starting to suspect something." Jake nodded, but he didn't look worried. "We'll be fine," he said, brushing a strand of hair out of my face. "We just have to be smart about it." I wanted to believe him, but deep down, I knew this couldn't last. Sooner or later, everything was going to come crashing down. And when it did, there would be no going back. Emily's suspicions didn't go away. If anything, they got worse. She started calling me more often, asking questions that made my stomach churn. "Has Jake been over lately?" she'd ask, her voice casual, but with an edge I couldn't ignore. "He's been coming home late a lot. I don't know what's going on with him." I lied every time. "No, he hasn't been over," I'd say, my voice steady even as my hands shook. "Maybe he's just busy with work. You know how it is." But I could tell she didn't believe me. And why would she? I was a terrible liar. Every time I talked to her, I felt like she could see right through me, like she knew exactly what I was hiding. It was only a matter of time before she found out the truth. Jake, on the other hand, seemed unfazed. He kept coming over, kept texting me, kept acting like nothing was wrong. "She's just paranoid," he said one night when I brought it up. "She doesn't know anything. We're fine." But we weren't fine. I wasn't fine. The guilt was eating me alive, and the fear of getting caught was constant. I started having nightmares. Emily walking in on us, her face twisted in betrayal and disgust. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, my heart racing, and I'd lie there for hours, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I'd let things get this far. One night, Emily showed up at my house unannounced. I was in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner, when I heard the front door open. "Mom?" she called, her voice echoing through the house. I froze, panic surging through me. Jake was supposed to come over that night. What if he showed up while she was here? What if she found out? I forced myself to take a deep breath and walked out to meet her. "Hey, sweetie," I said, trying to sound normal. "What are you doing here?" She looked tired, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, her eyes shadowed with worry. "I just needed to get out of the house," she said, sinking into a chair at the kitchen table. "Jake's been so distant lately. I don't know what's going on with him." I sat down across from her, my heart pounding. "Have you talked to him about it?" I asked, trying to sound concerned instead of terrified. She shook her head. "Every time I try, he brushes me off. He says it's just work, but I don't know. I feel like there's something he's not telling me." I wanted to tell her the truth. I wanted to beg for her forgiveness and promise her I'd never see Jake again. But I didn't. Instead, I lied. "I'm sure it's nothing," I said, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. "He loves you. He's probably just stressed." She nodded, but she didn't look convinced. And when she left that night, I felt like the worst person in the world. I was betraying my own daughter, and there was no way to undo it. It happened on a Tuesday. Emily had been gone for the weekend, and Jake had stayed over at my place. We'd gotten careless, too comfortable in our routine. I'd forgotten to delete a text from him. A simple, "I'll be there at 8." And Emily saw it when she borrowed my phone to call a friend. At first, she didn't say anything. She just handed me back my phone, her face pale, her hands trembling. I didn't think much of it until later that night, when she showed up at my door, her eyes red and swollen from crying. "What the hell is this, Mom?" she demanded, shoving her phone in my face. It was a screenshot of the text I'd forgotten to delete. My heart dropped to my stomach. "Emily, I can explain," I started, but she cut me off. "Explain what? That you've been sleeping with my husband? That you've been lying to me this whole time?" Her voice broke, and she looked at me like she didn't even recognize me. "How could you do this to me? I'm your daughter." I didn't know what to say. There were no words that could make this right, no excuse that could justify what I'd done. I just stood there, frozen, as she screamed at me, her anger and pain filling the room like a storm. Jake showed up not long after, drawn by the sound of Emily's voice. He tried to calm her down, to explain, but it only made things worse. "You're both disgusting," she spat, tears streaming down her face. "I can't believe I trusted you, either of you." She left that night, slamming the door behind her, and I knew I'd lost her. Jake stayed for a while, trying to talk to me, but I couldn't even look at him. All I could think about was Emily, her face, her voice, the way she'd looked at me like I was a stranger. The days that followed were a blur. Emily refused to answer my calls or texts, and Jake moved out of their house, leaving her to deal with the fallout alone. I tried to reach out, to apologize, but she wouldn't listen, and I didn't blame her. I wouldn't have listened either. I spent a lot of time alone after that, replaying everything in my head, wondering how I'd let things get so out of control. I'd lost my daughter, my family, and any sense of who I was. And for what? A few moments of feeling wanted? It wasn't worth it. None of it was worth it. But even as I sat there, drowning in guilt and regret, I couldn't help but think about Jake, about the way he'd made me feel, even if it was wrong. And that's when I realized the worst part of all. I wasn't just mourning the loss of my relationship with Emily. I was mourning the loss of him, too.